I'm here at Conexpo 2014 with Ron DeFeo, the Chairman and CEO of Terex. Thank you so much, Ron, for coming to spend some time with me today. The big news from Terex at the end of last year was that it decided to sell its rigid and articulated hauler business to Volvo Construction Equipment for $160 million. And that's kind of an end of an era for Terex. You've been manufacturing trucks at Motherwell for 30 years. Could you tell us a little bit more about the strategy behind this decision?
Sure. I think this is an example of what companies need to do when they look at their portfolio of businesses and determine that that business would be better off, more successful with the acquiring company than with continuing on as you are doing. In fact, the portfolio of most of Terex's products are in the lifting and material handling area, and that's a clear dump truck business, both rigid and articulated. And Volvo's a very, very, very dedicated company there, and I think is committed to the Motherwell site, is committed to the product lines, and I think will actually help accelerate growth for that business, whereas we were challenged to have that become a core part of our future strategy. It had been a core part of our past. We're delighted because it really was the nucleus of the company for many, many years. But you know, times change and we get paid to make challenging decisions. We think we got a fair price and we think Volvo will have a great business.
Now, since the sale of the hauler business and the sale of the road building business last year to Fiat, almost none of the businesses that Terex operates today were part of its portfolio 15 years ago, which is rather unusual in our industry. Would you accept that Terex's model of acquisition and cost cutting has only worked on a few occasions when the acquired company is in good shape to begin with? And how does your track record inform your future strategic decisions?
I wouldn't accept that, actually. I'd say most of the businesses that we acquired at Terex were businesses that had some difficulty, were in some challenges, including our most successful businesses. When we acquired them, we applied a dedicated management team to focus on those things that we thought would create substantial value, cost cutting being part of it, but investing in new products being another part of it. And you know, I think we've been changing our company over the past several years to be much more of an operating company. We believe in lean and lean business processes, and many of our businesses are continuing to emphasize how to make our company better. We have a simplification strategy. We have a concentration of shared assets between our various segments. We have several factories today that manufacture multiple products for our different segments. So I think you're seeing Terex evolve from what we used to be perceived as an acquisitions company to more of an operating company. That's not to say that we won't acquire businesses in the future, but at least that's where we are at this point.
Right, thank you. Now, here we are at a construction equipment show, and in the context of the hauler and the road building sales, Terex, is it still committed to the construction equipment industry? Is there enough remaining to amount to a really significant business?
Well, the construction segment that we have today is about an $800 million segment. So it's a pretty good sized segment. So we're pretty committed to that. And I think the businesses contained within that segment have had strong operating histories. And they can be attached to important parts of Terex today. So don't expect us to make any significant divestitures from that portfolio.
And last year, Genie, your aerial platform business, was the main driver behind the very positive results that Terex saw. What's fueling Genie's success?
Well, I think there's a number of things making Genie a great company. First is its passion for customers. Genie is passionate about helping our customers succeed in many, many ways. But the relationships that the Genie people have, Terex people have with the rental industry is pretty phenomenal. And I think that's at the center of it. But if you're looking at it from a financial point of view, you'd have to say that there's a few fundamentals that are headed in Genie's way. The fleets are generally old. The high utilization levels today, the used equipment values are strong, and ultimately, the customer base is being very planful in this replacement of the fleet. So I think our job is to help our customers be successful, but the fundamentals of the business are headed in the right direction, and that's without a significant non-residential construction turnaround, which we
Right.
expect to happen.
And as you said, the rental markets are very important for Genie. And which markets are you looking at for rental growth this year?
Well, I think North America will continue to be a solid market. We actually grew 30% in the last quarter at Genie, and we actually had some growth in Europe in the last quarter of the year. So we expect 2014 to show even greater growth in Europe in the rental markets. It's an interesting time in Europe. I think the worst is now behind us. We're seeing the United Kingdom begin to improve and other core markets showing some strength. So we're very hopeful. And that business for us is only 40% of the last peak. So we've got a lot of opportunities still in front of us in aerial work platforms in Europe.
Now, of course, Terex manufactures cranes as well, and the cranes division didn't have such a good 2013. So I was wondering if you could tell us what was holding back crane sales last year.
Yeah, well, you know, we're a cyclical business, and our business, no pun intended, goes up and down. And you'll see out here on the show one of the largest cranes in the world. That was just introduced last year. But one of the things that held back our crane business in 2013 was a weak Australian and commodity-related market.
Right.
Australia had been a boom market for us, and we had had some very strong growth in Latin America. Those two markets were a little bit slower in 2013, so year over year we didn't do so well. But as I looked at 2014, our forecast is for moderate growth, not really aggressive growth, but a pretty meaningful improvement in our margins. So we expect 2014 to be a good year in cranes too.
And which other sectors do you expect to increase your presence in this year?
Well, you know, each one of our segments has its own strategy, and we really run Terex with each one of our segment leaders driving the business and those leaders. Our materials processing business, the crushing and screening business, this is a business that has historically been a terrific performer for Terex. 2013, we had a little bit of a minor slowdown in revenue, but margins were good. We expect revenue to pick up a little bit more in 2014 and margins to remain strong. And you know, we talked about construction, we talked about Genie, we talked about cranes. Another critical segment for us is the material handling and port solutions business. Many of you may remember we acquired DMAG Cranes a couple of years ago, and we're really diversifying that business into an overhead crane business and a port solutions business. Both businesses are strong in their own right, and while 2013 was a little bit of a weak year for overhead cranes, industrial businesses in Europe, I think we're seeing some improvements in Europe and in other markets in that business, and we're quite hopeful that 14 and 15 become very strong businesses in material handling and port.
Excellent, a little bit more than cautious optimism there.
Oh yeah, we're pretty positive about the prospects of the company.
Just a couple more questions for you. One that I'm asking everyone that I meet at the show at the moment, especially people in your position. I'm wondering, what are the biggest challenges currently facing the construction equipment industry?
Well, there's a lot of challenges in any business, but one of the biggest challenges is this is an industry that has a lot of unique and different players. It's not a consolidated business, so you have to pick your spots if you're going to be successful. There's very few Caterpillars, right? So Caterpillar's a great company, but if you try to be like Caterpillar, you're going to have difficulties. So every company, even a $7+ billion company like Terex, has to pick its spots. So I think that's one of the real challenges. Availability of capital is there, so money is available, but there are different trends in different parts of the world. It's difficult to penetrate China, for example. You have indigenous manufacturers that do a good job, but the environment there today isn't that strong. But on the other hand, it would be difficult for a Chinese company to penetrate North America or Europe. So we each have our place in the world, and we have to be respectful of that, but we also have to make sure we learn how to compete globally. And that's one of the real challenges of any construction equipment company, is how do you compete globally while still doing business locally? That's the trick.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And my final question to you, here we are at Conexpo. I'm just wondering what the benefit of a show like Conexpo is to Terex, and how you're finding it so far.
Well, the benefit's pretty straightforward. You get to see people like yourself, Helen. You get to communicate with people who would be interested in learning about the company. And the most important thing is you get to see the thousands of customers that you'd never be able to shake their hand, thank them for their business, and welcome them into your booth and into your entertainment. You know, this week we'll have over 3,000, probably close to 4,000 customers visit our ZZ Top performance on Wednesday night. It's a great chance for me to say thank you for your business, and please give us an opportunity to earn your business tomorrow.
I'll be there at ZZ Top as well, so I look forward to seeing you
Great.
then. Thank you so much for your time, Ron. Much appreciated.
My pleasure, Helen. Thank you.